We're trying to give us the foundation as to what is really the essence of Teshuva and the power that it brings to us. So Rabbi Yonah is trying to persuade us, as it were, to see the value of doing Teshuva. So we're towards the bottom of the page. Rabbi Yonah has just finished telling us that we can accomplish levels of Teshuva well beyond what we naturally would be normally capable of accomplishing. So 4 lines from the bottom. So after he says that Hashem helps the Baal Teshuva achieve levels that beyond what he's capable of achieving, he says, V'chadesh b'kirbam ruach tohara lahasig malas avaso. And he renews within the Baal Teshuva a spirit of purity that enables him to achieve the levels of loving Hashem. Shenemar, as it says, V'shavta ad Hashem Elokecha, you will return unto Hashem, your God. V'shamata b'kolo, you will listen to his voice. Kechol asher anochi mitzavacha hayom, according to everything that I've commanded you today. Atov anecha, you and your children. So we're talking about Teshuva. You'll be doing Teshuva. And you'll do Teshuva b'chol levavecha v'chol nafshecha, with all your heart and all your soul. Still haven't gotten to the proof that this will enable you to love Hashem. Ve'omer b'gufa inyanet, but that's the topic of Teshuva. That's at the end of Sefer Dvar. It's the topic of Teshuva. We are being told the future is you will return to Hashem. You will do Teshuva. So that's the topic. You and your children will do Teshuva with all your heart and all your soul. And then ve'omer b'gufa inyanet, and then in the midst of that topic, it also says, Umal Hashem Elokecha, Hashem will circumcise, next page, Es levavecha v'es levav zarecha, your heart and the heart of your children. And now we come to the words, Lahasig avaso, to attain the love of Hashem. So you see at the end of that verse, it's saying you'll be able to love Hashem. So, what's the chiddush over here? That, got to remember, what did we just say? We said yesterday, no matter how far away you are from Hashem, there's still the doors of Teshuva are open. Now a person can be very far to the point where he's rebelling against Hashem. So we see that what can happen, even though you rebelled against Hashem, it could reach the point that you sense a love for Hashem, which is the polaric extreme. You usually, a person who's a big sinner is not a big lover of God. And Rabbi Yonah is saying, and logically, how could that person not be ashamed of himself to be able to even feel that he stands before Hashem and loves Hashem? And this is what Rabbi Yonah is saying, that this too is what Hashem gives the person. Hashem will cause that the person will be overcome by a new, pure spirit in which the person will get tinges of love for Hashem. Now, how that happens, it's part of what the text is saying when it says, Umal Hashem Elokecha es levavcha v'es levav zarecha. Hashem will circumcise your hearts. What does it mean that Hashem is circumcising your heart? I mean, a circumcision is usually not done on the heart. God forbid, would kill someone. So the commentaries explain that when a person leads a life against certain values and codes which Hashem has established, what happens is you receive a certain insensitivity towards spiritual values. It's called timtum halev, a dullness of the heart. That's what it's called, a dullness of the heart, an insensitivity. In other words, it's not possible for a person to act like an animal in certain areas of his life, and then he should, and at the same time, to be fine-tuned into the most spiritual kind of communications with Hashem. The two things don't exist. Can't be. Person who's you're doing Averis is because you're into the body. If you're into the body strongly, you're not going to be into spiritual things. There's a Yiddish expression, as said in English, if you go to sleep like a horse, you don't get up like a lion. Okay? You just can't. So the same thing over here. if a person leads a life that's not in tune with the spiritual values that Hashem wants us to have, we begin to develop an insensitivity towards those values, and it would be very difficult to come around to those values. So there's this idea of, we talk about the concept of a heart of stone, as opposed to a heart which feels and senses spiritual values. And that's what happens. After you do Averis for a while, you develop a heart of stone. So the verse is saying that God will circumcise the insensitivities that have grown into one's heart, and that will all be cut away, be taken away, so that only the raw, pure heart remains that has total sensitivity towards its way back to Hashem. As we know mystically, the heart is the seat of the neshama, where one can come in contact with one's soul. And one's soul wants to be so close to Hashem and loves Hashem. But when you pile up all this insensitivity, it's not able to. So Hashem just has to, it's like a circumcision. You cut away the part that doesn't belong. So Hashem, as it were, will cut away that part. And once that part is gone, then the love that is inherently there. You have to remember, every Jew inherently loves God. You come into the world with every single capability of loving Hashem in the deepest way, because that's, your neshama is there. So now the problem is you've put on so much dullness into it. It's not aware. You're not aware. So Hashem has to just cut it away, as it were. Now that doesn't happen by itself. It happens when you do the hard work of Teshuva. As we'll see, you do the 20 steps of Teshuva, then Hashem is going to help you and make that happen. So you can go from one extreme to the other, where the person mamish is loving HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Now, the Torah does mention, interestingly, it says, you and your children. It says it twice. It says that you and your children will return to Hashem. Hashem will circumcise the hearts of your hearts and the hearts of your children. So that's really a very, on the one hand, it's an encouraging pasuk, but it's reflecting a very sad, we realize certain sad realities where we have parents who, and children who are not religious and are not on the derech, and you have situations where sometimes children come back and parents don't come back. Sometimes you have a situation where parents come back and children don't come back. So how does one work on this? Let's just say from the parent side of it, when the parent does tshuva and the children already are older and they don't want to do tshuva. So what can a parent do for a child to hopefully make this pasuk come true? So there's a number of answers you can give to this question. We'll start from the most, the least comforting answer to the most comforting answer. Right? The least comforting answer is there's only so much a parent can do for a child, and after that, the child is basically on their own. And it's going to be very hard to expect that to happen. You can try, but at the end of the day, your kid has their own free will choice. To go a little further than that, we can say that the most that a parent can do as their position as a parent, and not so much as a religious Jew, now that the parent has done tshuva, is to try to communicate to the child where the mistakes were made by the parent and why. That in my caring for you as a parent cares for a child, where the correction might be. In other words, children, many of us know that children usually resist very much. They say, you changed your life, and why do I have to change mine? It's a big problem. It's a big problem. You got to have fun in life, and then you decide to change your mind. That's fine. Just don't bother me. So the only way you can say anything is by showing your sincerity. Why it means so much to you, and why your happiness is so much bound up with that, and that's something you'd like your children to pick up on. Now, there's no guarantee they're going to make changes because of it, but that's what you can do. Again, it's only in what you can do. You can show them that that you're entering into this world of Teshuva because it means a tremendous amount of difference to you in terms of your life and your happiness with your life, and you want to be able to share it with them because you love them. You could say, my life is so much better now, and I really wish you could take advantage of this. But, if you're certainly going to say, well, don't you realize that if you don't do Teshuva, you will burn in hell, and you'll have no eternal soul, and this and that, that usually doesn't work. And people won't listen to that. But if you say, my quality of life is so much better, and I'd like your quality of life to be so much better, just try it and see a little bit of what it is. That may be a possibility. Number 3 is the good old answer. You have to daven to Hashem. It's so important. You have to say to Hashem, you have to daven like this, saying, Hashem, being that I returned and I realized the difference in my life before and today, so please give the gift of inspiration so that I to my child, so that I should feel that I should be able to return to you completely, that it should come to my children as well. In other words, I've done Teshuva, but if my kids don't do Teshuva, so what's it going to help in the long term? And you should evoke this pasuk. You should evoke this pasuk and say, Hashem, you wrote in your Torah that me and my children will be able to return to you. So please make this pasuk come true. So that's, you need a lot of tefillah for this. So that's another aspect. And finally, I think you have to feel that there are certain basic values, orthodox based or not, and that can inculcate into children certain foundations of Teshuva. What I mean to say, and this is also an important thing to realize many times, even if, let's say, children who have become Baal Teshuvas and they don't think their parents gave them anything, we shouldn't be so quick to write off parents. I mean, sometimes yes, but many times no. Because parents, if you're religious or not, can inculcate into their children values such as honesty, respect, consideration for others. Even if you're not religious, there are people who maybe still do that, right? And these sensitivities become foundations that can hopefully bring somebody back. If a child really has been taught to be honest, really honest, and to really show respect, then there'll be a certain degree of respect. There'll be a certain honesty, and they will seek the real truth. So although it may not, when you were secular, it didn't come from a religious point of view, but if you inculcated certain core values that Teshuva can be based on, then there's always hope. And if a child has become a Baal Teshuva, they should thank the parents that the parents gave them these kinds of values, even though that they may be secular. So, there's many essential elements of decency and honesty and consideration that are elements of a Jewish education also, even if it was not, Jewish based. It may not be 100% the same, but it's in the ballpark. So, and of course, those concepts, when the parent was secular, may not be enough now presently to translate into observance of Yiddishkeit. But a parent shouldn't say to himself, I never gave my child any kind of foundation. It could be later on in life, you're going to beat yourself up and say, I never gave my kid anything. But you could say you did give them certain core values. And ultimately, if a child does return, it will be based on those healthy foundations that their parents gave them. So, there is some solace the parents can take. And again, I have for Rosh Hashanah a very great story about that. So I'm going to leave for that. So I got already two hints to you. Okay, let's finish up. Sif Aleph. Vanavim v'aksuvim, we're on page 4. Dibru tamid al dvar Teshuva. And the prophets and those who came after the prophets, they spoke consistently about the concept of Teshuva. Akivo ikare hatshuva kula mefurashim b'divrei kasher yispor. Until you'll see that all the primary aspects of tshuva are really explicit in their words, as we'll explain. Now, the greatness of Rabbi Yonah is that from all the words of all the prophets, he picks out the cues that show us 20 amazing steps in tshuva. And the greatness of Rabbi Yonah is he dissects the words of the prophets and makes it into one formal methodology of accomplishing tshuva. So all this methodology can all be deduced from what the prophet said. So in other words, there's nothing left to the psychologists and to the therapists, needing to give you the elements of tshuva. The process of returning and changing one's lifestyle is all defined in the Torah. That's where the answers are. You just have to know how to learn Navi. So a lot of us don't know how to learn Navi. So Rabbi Yonah did us the favor. He did us the favor. He learned the Navi, and he's going to share that with us. But not quite yet. He still has to talk about one more important thing that he spends a bit of time on, but the read goes a bit quicker. And that's what he got in Sif Beis now. Vida, you should know. Ki hachote kasher yisacher lo shuv mechatoso. The sinner, when he delays his return from his sins, yichbad alav ma'od ansho b'chol yom. The punishment for him gets heavier every day. What Rabbi Yonah is going to talk about now is the perils of procrastination of doing tshuva. That's what the next topic is over here. And he starts off by saying that the sinner, if you delay doing tshuva, you are just weighing on the load for what one should get punished every single day. It gets worse. Every single. If you've done an Avera, you know you've done an Avera, you say, I'll wait till Yom Kippur to do tshuva. And you did the Avera in November. Okay, wait till Yom Kippur. That's a good time to do tshuva. It gets piled on every day. And because he's saying this because people have a mistaken notion for various reasons. Most of these people who delay, it's either from a lack of control or very strong desire or something like that. So you do an Avera. When you do an Avera, you're either caught off guard or whatever. You did the Avera. Fine. But after you've made the mistake and realize you made the mistake, to delay in the correction of that mistake could conceivably even be harsher. God's response could be harsher than the mistake itself. Why? Let's read on and see what he says. It could be worse. The delaying of tshuva could be worse than the avera that you did to begin with. Why? Because he knows that God is disturbed with him. You do an avera, Hashem isn't happy. Picture in your mind, how does Hashem feel? You've taken the gifts he's given you and used it to go against him. Okay? How does Hashem feel? Right? Now, and more than that, v'yesh lo manus lo nushama. And there is a place, there's a sanctuary to escape to. There's a way to get out of this. V'hamanus hu tshuva. And the sanctuary is that of doing tshuva. So you have the ability to fix things up. V'omeid b'mirdo, and you remain and steadfastly stay in your state of rebellion. V'hinei b'ra'aso, and he remains with his bad deeds. So again, you could use the analogy of parent to child, where a child does something wrong, and afterwards it becomes clear to the child that the parent is extremely disturbed with what the child has done. And the child can do something to appease the parent, and the child clearly sees the parent's annoyance, and for the child to play dumb, to their annoyance, and not be disturbed at all by it, that itself is a certain rejection of the parent. It's bad enough you did something the parent didn't want you to do. And now the parent's upset with what they did. So you should try to, and there's a way to fix it up. and the parent is kind of leaving the door open and making it easy to kind of come and own up to what you've done, and you make it like nothing's happened, right? So okay, you did the thing wrong because you wanted to do it, but after the thing's done, and knowing that it's displeasing your parents and playing dumb to that displeasure, that itself is something that has to be dealt with, and it's much worse. That's what Hashem is saying. You got the way out. Why aren't you doing anything about that? You know, it's reminiscent of the story with the Chavetz Chaim that it was once a Purim, and the Chavetz Chaim, you know how Purim is, and all the Bachrim were at the Chavetz Chaim's house and Farbrengen and this, and so then there's one Bacher who was a bit drunk, and he keeps going to Chavetz Chaim, and he says, you know, give me a bracha, and he's really annoying the Chavetz Chaim. Chavetz Chaim really wasn't into that kind of stuff. So finally the Chavetz Chaim, you know, had enough of it, but of course there has to be an educational way to teach the fellow that he's really behaving in an annoying fashion. So in front of everybody, and like he's nudging him, so the Chavetz Chaim turns to him and says, with all seriousness, in the middle of all the celebration, like the celebration stops, like stop the music, and he turns to the guy in front of everybody and says, if you promise me today that you will stop speaking Lashon Hara for the rest of your life, and you will work on stopping to speak Lashon Hara, I promise you a seat in Gan Eden next to me. You know, that's a pretty good bracha, isn't it? So the Bacher, like for the first time that day, like realized what this meant. It meant to not talk Lashon Hara the rest of your life. It's not an easy thing. And the Bacher's like standing there and like frozen, and he's not responding, and Chavetz Chaim, you know, and no response. So Chavetz Chaim gets up and says, take him away from me. Take him away from me. A Bacher who's at the edge of Gan Eden and can't go in has nothing to do with me right now. So that's the same thing. You know, you do an Aveira, you're in bad shape. We don't realize the hot water we put ourselves in. We don't realize what we've done. And Hashem is saying, and Hashem is begging you, please, here's the ability to save yourself. And you don't care to. So that's going to get Hashem a lot more upset with you. That you don't even care to fix things up. And that's what he's saying. You're remaining at your state of rebellion. And more than that, ubiyado latzeis mitoicha hafecha. And it's in your hands to leave the hafecha, to leave the turmoil that you're in. So Rabbi Yonah is so precise of what's going on over here. When a person falls into something he shouldn't have done, it's not just you did the Avera, you are now in a state of turmoil. If you realize it or not, after you're in Avera, you're in a state of turmoil. Why? Because your kochas hanefesh, your spiritual powers, everything you have, in terms of potentials and abilities, they go a little bit out of whack, and maybe a lot out of synchronization with who the person is. In other words, there is the normal state a Jew should be in. The normal state is being connected to one's soul, being synchronized, body and soul. And when you do the Averas, you're out of sync. And there's a great turmoil because you realize you did something bad. And now you're shown a way to leave this turmoil, and you're perfectly happy to stay the way you are. So that itself is a very maddening situation that exists. You have a chance to fix yourself up. You mamish have the chance to fix yourself up. And a person is in denial or whatever. It's a terrible thing. And continuing, so you can get out of that. You don't have any fear for the displeasure that's going on, that Hashem has for you. Al kain ra'asa rabba. Therefore, that negative behavior is even greater. That's not to respond when you know that there's so much displeasure. That itself is a deepening of the negative situation. And our rabbis of blessed memory in the Midrash said an analogy. They gave an analogy of what this is. This is one of the famous analogies that at first blush will give you trouble understanding it. We'll have to explain it. It says, Moshel lekat shalistim shechavasham hamelech b'veis asurim. To make an analogy to a group of robbers who got caught by the king's soldiers and were thrown into jail. They're thrown into jail. So they're sitting in jail. V'chatru machteres, and then they work on digging a hole to escape. It's going to be a big escape job. Partsu vayavoru. So they broke through, and the guys escaped. They escaped. V'nishar echad mehem. But one guy stayed in the jail and didn't run out. He's not running out. So next morning, bo sar beis hasohar. So the officer of the jail comes in. V'ra machteres chatura. He sees the jail, the hole opening to get out. He sees the hole that was dug. Vayishahu adenu atzur, and he sees the other guy still sitting in jail. So he comes there. What's his reaction? Vayach oso b'mateo. So the guard takes a stick and smashes the guy who's still staying there. Amarlo, he said, Ksheyom, you stubborn one. Halo machteres chatur levanecha. The hole was open. The escape route was open. Why weren't you quick to save your soul? To save yourself. Why did you do this? So when you read this analogy, you kind of have trouble with that. And I remember when I was much younger, and I remember when I was in yeshiva, and they were reading this, I had all kinds of trouble trying to understand what. I understand the guy's doing the right thing. He did a crime. The worst thing he could do is run away, right? So again, it's like, that's with our secular musagim of jail, and you have to serve your jail term. We have the wrong ideas of what jail is, so therefore we have the wrong ideas of what the mashal is. You figure, well, if the jail term is this, then you have to stay the jail term. So, the way the commentaries explain is like this. He says, the fact that you're in jail means that the king is still gonna give you a punishment. The guys in jail still have to decide what's going to be with these guys, right? And the guys who are running away, they're afraid to know what kind of punishment the king's going to give them, right? And that's not a bad thing to feel scared to death of what kind of punishment you're going to get. So if this guy doesn't run out of the jail, what is he saying? He says, I really don't care what the king is going to do to me. And that itself is a terrible thing. Okay? In other words, it's like, who's the king? What could he do already that could hurt me? And that itself is a zilzul. That itself is a denigration of the king. If you're at least afraid of what, I think what a parent hates the most when you threaten to punish the kid, says, so go try it. I don't care. I'm going to do I don't care. So it's like they have no fear for you at all. And as a parent, that is the thing you are more upset than anything else. The kid did something wrong. Okay, you're upset. They took the car and came home 3 o'clock in the morning. They're responsible. Okay, But then you say, we're going to have to seriously decide what to do with you. He says, man, I don't care. I don't care what you do. It doesn't faze me. So that already shows that they have no reverence for you at all, and they have no fear for what you can do at all. And that itself is a lot worse. So in terms of, listen, this is the king, man. The king can really do something to you, right? And the fact that you don't even think that the king, it doesn't bother you what the king's going to do. Do you realize he could kill you? Doesn't that have any importance to you? So if you don't leave, it's like you feel, what could the king do to me already? And that itself like deepens the issue. And therefore, in terms of how that analogy fits to real life, you have to realize you did an Aveira and you've been separated from Hashem. You got to realize what it means to be in that state of non-tshuva. And the Rambam goes into great detail. The person who has sinned, and has developed a bad lifestyle. So how do things play out? So the Rambam says, you cry out to Hashem when you stay in that state of rebellion. You cry out to Hashem, Hashem doesn't answer. You do mitzvahs, and Hashem rips them up in front of your face, says the Rambam. Person, you have to think about it. You have to think about it. You do certain averos, and that's your thing. You constantly speak lashon hara. You don't eat kosher, place whatever whatever the aver is, you do, and that's your thing. And then in the morning you get up and you put on tefillin, and you daven to Hashem. So now think about it. If you're a parent. Okay, you're a parent. The kid went and brought the car home 3 o'clock. Many times. Right? Many times. And you kind of are leaving the door open and saying, I think we need to talk about it. I think, kid says, I don't care. Okay? Now you're the parent. Now, put in your mind how you feel, right? And this is going on in many ways for many times. Right? Then the kid wants something, and he wants to cuddle up. And I'll say, Dad, it's coming my birthday, and I really would like this and that, and then the kid, without asking, takes out the garbage, and does a couple things like that. Now the parent's going to say, get out of here. What are you talking about? You don't respect me. It's just a game. Till we have a serious talk, I'm not interested. Now that would be a normal, healthy parent would respond that way. I'm not talking about an egotistical parent. In other words, you have no respect for me. You really want to do your own thing. You're doing things that are not appropriate at all. So to get what you want, you'll cuddle up to me. So the parent will just ignore it. As they should. Because the kid has to say, till the kid starts, what's going on? I did this and that. So the parent says, well, what about responsibility? What about honesty? What about integrity? What about treating me decently? These are issues we've got to talk about. And until then, you're not going to give them anything. You shouldn't. So that's the way Hashem is. You go to Hashem and you start doing mitzvahs and say, I did mitzvahs. Building up the bank account. What's a mitzvah? Mitzvah, remember, the word mitzvah comes from the word tzavta, which means to be connected. The value of mitzvahs is getting closer to Hashem. But you do your own thing. So then you're doing this mitzvah. Hashem rips them up right in front of your face. You daven to Hashem. People wonder, you daven to Hashem. I daven to Hashem. He didn't answer me. So sometimes the answer, for sure he's not answering you. Because you're persona non gratis. You're in your state of rebellion. You do what in the world you please. And then when you need something, you ask for him. So he says, get out of here. I'm not interested. You know why? Because there's much more important things we have to deal with before we get to your shopping list. And that's the state you're in. That is the state you're in. You have to realize if a person is a sinner, quote unquote, right? But now there's all these other things come in life, and you want this, and you want, but we'll call you a religious sinner. You go to shul 3 times a day. You have a kosher home, but you do a lot of things that Judaism does not allow, and you just live on that way, and you don't do tshuva on that. But you got to realize that it doesn't happen. It's not like I do. I'm 90% okay, but this 10% I'm never going to deal with. So that's not how it works. So Hashem says, well, then in that case, the other 90% I'm not really interested either in. Now we're not talking with. Now again, I don't want you to get the wrong idea. If a person does not vera, and then you want to do tshuva, and if you're struggling with the tshuva, you say, I know it's wrong, and I know I shouldn't speak lashon hara, and I know I shouldn't be looking at things I shouldn't look at, and I'm trying to, but I can't control myself, and Hashem help me, and you're failing, and you're trying, and you're failing. They do other mitzvahs. Hashem's not going to rip up the other mitzvahs. Because He knows you're going through your own torment, trying to change, and it's not going. So if you go to the parent and say, I know I should be more responsible, I'm trying to be more responsible, but it's so hard for me to be responsible. And then, okay, and the parent says, okay, they're trying. Okay, and I'll look at the other things more favorably. The person says, what are you talking about? What's the problem? What's the problem? You tell the person, you've been talking in shul the whole day. From when you walked into the shul, you haven't stopped talking. You pull out the Shulchan Aruch. Shulchan Aruch says it's a big avera. It's a big avera. Don't bother me with that. He says, talking lashon hara. You call that person an idiot. You call everybody an idiot. You insult people all the time. That's lashon hara. Get out of this. I'm cool. And you're saying I don't have to do any tshuva. Then you're playing a dangerous game. You're playing a real dangerous game. Because and the person saying, listen, why didn't you do tshuva? Because you got to realize Hashem is really, the relationship is not good. And then comes the first and the rabbis talking how you should do tshuva. It's those for wimps. I don't have to do tshuva. Right? This whole tshuva is crazy. I don't have to change anything. So then you're like, so what's going on? The gate is open. The jail is open. You have a way out of the jail. So like don't you realize what you're doing? And like some fundamental ideas, like one of the 13 principles is there's a concept of reward and punishment. It's a big concept in Judaism. There's going to be consequences for what's going on. And the person, I don't care. It's a big deal. So now you've upped the ante of your of the negative relationship. It's you say, well, who's God? Well, what's God anyway? What do I got to be worried about? Everything's going to be fine. So now you're already encroaching on, not only you disregarded what he's told you to do, you're really disregarding him. Or they say now, you're dissing him. It's the new lingo. You're dissing him. So you're dissing God. That's a dangerous game. So in the face of the fact that you've got the way out, and you're not taking advantage of the way out, it's not like I did something bad, I don't even know what to do. Okay, you don't know what to do, that's one thing. But if the prophet said, this is what you do. The door is open. We've unlocked. We've made a hole. You can get out. You can get out of the mess. I don't care. So that already gets Hashem much more upset. You got the chance. You're not even taking advantage of it. That means you don't really care about the whole relationship. And then you deserve to get smacked over the head because you don't care about the whole relationship. That's what this analogy really means. Now it's interesting. Rav Dessler mentions. He says, well, what's the whole idea of it? It says that they dug a hole in the ground, they dug a tunnel. Why couldn't they have done another analogy of just, escape by just opening up the door, opening up the jail door? It seems to be like so secretive, like there was, machteret, an underground tunnel, and, like visions of, the escape from Stalag 13, like how you get out. Why such an analogy? So he says, because when a person does tshuva, it's the kind of thing you shouldn't really publicize so much. Because the Yetzer Hara is not going to want you to do tshuva. So it's the kind of thing you have to do like in a real quiet way. Tshuva, even doing tshuva, has to be done with a lot of tznius, with a lot of modesty, with a lot of lack of fanfare, with a lot of humility. In other words, if you get up and say, you make public announcements, I am going to improve, I am going to change, it's like telling the warden, I'm going to escape through the front door. When you do that, the Yetzer Hara says, you think so? I'm going to prepare a few more traps along the way. In other words, if you're doing tshuva, you should be ashamed that you have to do tshuva. It's not like there's I'm about tshuva. I'm going and to make big notices about it. It's let's be quiet about it. Let's see what kind of tshuva you're going to do. It's bad enough you sinned. Okay, so let's discreetly try to get out of the mess. Okay, and don't it's almost to say it's like I'm not so ashamed of my verse. I did this, but now I'm going to change. Let's do it really quiet. So in other words, as just like a guy escapes from jail, you don't tell anybody. It's very quiet. It's between you and nobody else. So that's really what your tshuva should be too. It's not so much, it's just, you put it in the newspaper, I want everyone to know, I'm going to start doing tshuva, and my plan. Now, there's what to be said, maybe to tell one confidant, a couple close ones, but we'll put in the shul bulletin, so-and-so is going, undertaking a major tshuva campaign, and this and that. It's something that has to, if you're sincere, if the tshuva is sincere, it doesn't need all the fanfare. And if it's not, if it has a lot of fanfare, we can be very concerned that perhaps it's not really a real tshuva. So that's why the analogy fits in so nicely. So that's number one. So he's telling you it's a very terrible thing to delay doing tshuva. You have to be ready. So really, you shouldn't be waiting until Yom Kippur, and we'll see in the next sif exactly how quickly one should do tshuva. So now, he will now discuss for the next couple of paragraphs what is the profile of a person who delays doing tshuva. Now, why would anybody delay doing tshuva? If it's such a great gift, it's so important, right? So that's, you see, why he's writing this. So now when he'll give you the steps, you'll still be motivated to go through the steps, because he's not going to give you an easy program here. So he's got to really motivate you to say this is really important. Because, you may read the book and say, whoa, it's too heavy for me. When I become more religious, I'll start. He said, no. Don't delay this. It's bad news if you delay this. And now he's going to show you. So now we go on to Gimel. We're going to get the profile of the person who delays doing tshuva. We'll just start. Zulasi ba'amei haaretz asher hem yeshenim shoichvim. You will not find the delay of tshuva except, in other words, a double negative. Where will you find people delaying tshuva? It's the type of people that are called amei haaretz. It's a term referring to people who don't have a lot of knowledge of Torah. Ignorant people that are yeshenim shochvim, they're spiritually asleep. V'lo yeshivu el lavavam, and they don't bring this concept to their hearts. They don't bring this conscious awareness to them. V'lo das, v'lo tfuna lahem. They don't have the knowledge and the understanding. L'maher lihimolit al nafsham, to quickly escape and to save their souls. So what does he mean over here? He says if a person is intelligent and has a basic level of education, that education and knowledge demands a certain behavior from a person. And if a person knows that something's wrong, and the person who committed it has at least he has at least the degree of responsibility to himself to say, let me correct it. If you know you did something wrong and you're smart enough to know something wrong, you should be smart to say, I should fix it up. Right? So by and large, the people who don't act upon their wrongdoings is because they don't have the knowledge to begin with. They don't have the sensitivity to understand what kind of situation they're in. So you got to be out of your mind to not do tshuva. So what's the pshat is? You just don't know. In other words, it's such a despicable situation, if you really think about the way it's explained, not to respond to a state of turmoil. I say you're in a state of turmoil, or a way out when you have a way out. That under normal circumstances it can't be explained. Why wouldn't you do this? Unless the person doesn't even realize that there's a way out to begin with, or he doesn't even realize he's done anything wrong. So the guy's got to really be an ignorant person. That's why he doesn't do tshuva. Here's a chance, he says, l'himoleit nafsham, even more than this. People mistakenly think, well, I have to do tshuva only, I got to get Hashem happy with me. I got to get Hashem to be back on my good side. And so, okay, I'm going to do it for God. But that's totally wrong. That's not like that at all. It's not a question, it's not like there's someone else who wants me to respond in a certain way and have an obligation to that other person. I mean, it's true to a certain extent, but more importantly, it's yourself. It's lihimolet al nafsha. It's to save your own soul, to be the kind of person you can be. And it's only for your own benefit. Ultimately, who gains out of doing tshuva? You or Hashem? It's you. You're the one who gains from it. So it's not even so much for Hashem, it's for you. So why wouldn't you do something to help yourself? There can only be one explanation. You're ignorant to the fact. So that's what Rabbi Yossi is pointing out. It's lemaher lihimolit al nafsham. We're delaying with something that's for your own benefit. You know, you look at a person who's an addict. So who's losing by being the addict? I mean, other people are suffering, but the one who loses the most is the person himself. Now, what happens if he'll stop his addiction? He will gain. So isn't it such a rachmanis? What's wrong with the guy? It must be the person is so out to lunch, so ignorant to the facts, that he doesn't even realize that he can help himself. So ultimately, you know, you're helping yourself, and if you're not helping yourself, so the first reason he's giving is you've got to be totally ignorant to the fact. And you'll find that many people who are stuck in their state of Avera are very ignorant. So that's one reason, and we'll continue tomorrow with more reasons and to finish up this topic of the delaying of Teshuva.